Hello, my name's Tim Shoebridge. Welcome to this video, the subject of which is teenage engineering. I know, they produce some very expensive pieces of equipment, don't they? They also produce some rather cheap, very affordable and fun pieces of equipment as well. You know, just because a manufacturer produces something that is expensive doesn't mean to say that we have to get angry about it, upset about it, start calling names. We really don't. I mean, look, this is a house that I can't afford, and this is a lovely car that I can't afford, and this a yacht boat thing, I can't afford that either. Lovely watch, can't afford that. Wonderful synthesizer, I can't afford that either right now. I'm completely broke. But you know what? I'm not going to get angry about it. I'm not going to get upset about it. I see too many people getting angry and upset and calling names at teenage engineering just because they produced some products that are expensive. I think it's rather sad. So what I thought I'd do in this video is I would give my opinion on some teenage engineering products, because I realised, that I've actually owned some teenage engineering products for the last 2.5 years, and I've never said anything about them, and I've never featured them in a video on my channel, and I'm wondering why. Is it because I don't want to be called a twat with too much money, or labelled as a dentist, or a hipster with a beard who drinks oatmeal lattes and doesn't wear socks? It might be because of that I've kept my indulgence in teenage engineering products to myself. It's a bit sad, isn't it, when you end up doing something like that? So I'm going to celebrate teenage engineering products in this video, well, the ones that I own and use, because they really have helped me over the last couple of years. They have given me the opportunities to capture ideas, to develop my ideas away from the studio, and to meet deadlines. And by meeting deadlines, they've helped me to make some money, and that is the most important thing. So in this video, I'm not going to be reviewing any pieces of gear. I'm not going to go into all the details and the facilities and things like that. It's just a brief skimming through of what I've got and what I've been doing with it and why I like it and use it. That's what's coming up in this video. I really do hope that you will enjoy it. If you want to get angry, then just don't bother watching. That's all I can say. But this is what's coming up. Thanks very much for watching. So my journey with teenage engineering begins not with an OP1, but actually with these little pocket operators. I started getting interested in these a few years ago, and as you can see, I started to collect them. I stopped at 3. I think in total that teenage engineering have produced, say, 9. It might even be more than that, because they've come up with some special editions. It might be like 13 or 14 even that they've come up with in total. Each one of them is a little groove box, a little drum machine. They're quite similar in terms of what you can do with them, but they have very specific properties. There are some that have got like vocal synthesis capabilities, others that do sampling. This one, for me, is the star of the show. It's called the Tonic pocket operator. I can't remember which number is it. PO32? Can't remember. Now, why is this a standout one for me? Well, it's a drum machine. The sound quality of it is really good. I mean, it looks like just a little bit of a circuit board. It looks a bit weird. I mean, they all look weird. You're either going to get on with them or not, but they are weird looking. They look fragile, but they're actually not very fragile. They're pretty robust. All of the sort of like the main circuitry is hidden behind the screen, so it's all, there's no components that you're likely to break. And what's amazing about this is, well, it's a drum machine. It sounds brilliant. It's really a feature-packed drum machine when you get into it and realise what it can do. I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of it. Let's just make sure it's loud enough, and let's just play something. Maybe that one. Sound quality is great. So you've got access to 16 patterns that you can create on this at any time. 16 patterns, and you can chain those patterns together to create songs. There are lots of great features with it. There's lots of real-time effects, sort of like resonant filter sweeps and things like that you can do with it. It is really feature packed. You have got quite a lot of control over the individual drum sounds that you're hearing there, and you can automate that. You can actually save your changes on a per step basis. You've got a 16-step sequencer here, so 16 steps for each of your patterns. Now what makes this tonic pocket operator so wonderful for me is that all of those sounds that you're hearing, even though you can manipulate them and you can change them, you can actually just throw them away and replace them with completely new ones. And the way you do that is because of a piece of software. It's written by a company called Sonic Charge, and it's called Microtonic. Let me show you that now. Now you're going to have to pay for this piece of software. It's an add-in for your DAW. It runs on Mac, it runs on Windows. It's a drum synthesizer with a sequencer built in. As you can see from the front panel, you have got all the elements that you'd want to be able to synthesize drum sounds. You've got an oscillator, different waveforms, different ways of modulating the pitch. You've got its own dedicated envelope here. It's got an LFO built into it. We have a noise source which is filtered, different filter modes. It's a resonant filter. It's a stereo noise source as well. You've got an envelope for it and a capability of modulating it. And you've got distortion in here. It's stereo, so you can pan your drum sounds in the stereo field. You can create multiple two different variations of every drum sound and then morph between them using this control here. I'm not going to go and sort of like go into all of this and show you. There are plenty of videos out there about the Tonic pocket operator and about Microtonic as well. I'll just play you this particular. It's just a simple drum sequence that's just sort of like showcasing some of the sounds that we've got going on here. And this is just one preset. It comes with loads and loads and loads of factory presets, loads and loads and loads of different drum sounds. So if you don't want to sort of craft your own, there's a ton to choose from. And if you run out of ideas with these ones, you get the idea. If you run out of ideas with all of those ones, then there's loads more of these preset packs that you can download from the internet. Now the whole thing about how this ties in with the pocket operator is that once you've got some drum sounds that you like, you can actually upload them to your pocket operator and replace the sounds that are on the pocket operator. You do that with this little button here. You get this little pocket operator little graphic. You can choose to take a drum sound and choose where out of the 16 presets that you have on the pocket operator, which one it's going to override, or you can upload 8 at a time. And so what this really means for the Tonic pocket operator is it is completely flexible. You can come up with whatever sounds you like. You're going to need software to do it, but then you can upload it here. Now to upload those sounds, you don't need a MIDI cable, you don't need a USB cable. You just play a sound from Microtonic, and the pocket operator with this little inbuilt microphone will listen to that sound and install the presets that you're sending to it. It sounds a bit like an old modem. It's really, really cute. Alright, so on with the main event, the OP1. This is an instrument that really has divided people's opinions dramatically and has continued to do so to this day. You know, first impressions are really important, and First visual impressions, I think, are also important, because that's when people start to have their prejudices and they start to make up their minds. And I did exactly the same thing. When I first set eyes on an OP1, which was a YouTube video that someone had made, I just thought it looks like a child's toy. You know, its layout, it looks like a child's toy. These buttons, it looks like a child's toy. You can even get this little accessory kit for it. It looks like it's made of Lego or something. I mean, it looks like a child's toy. That goes on one of those, and then you can crank it. This thing goes on here, and then I haven't got the elastic band, but then you can flick it. I mean, oh, that comes off. That's not really good, is it? It's just, it looks like a child's toy in terms of the hardware. And then you've got, oops, sorry, I've just turned it off. And then you've got the graphics on the screen. Sorry, let's just wait for it to come back on again. It's very easy to turn it on and off, the OP1, the original OP1. Just the little switches down the side here. Look at the graphics on the screen. Look at, for example, this video game. I'm going to turn it down so you can't hear it. No, maybe I won't. I'll turn it up. This little video game we've got going on here. It's actually a filter effect. What else? This cow's guts. This is a modulation effect. This cow's guts. So I do appreciate that lots of people think that it's a waste of money. I know that a lot of people do. I did as well. I just didn't go on the internet and just vocalize that whole time and get angry about it. At the end of the day, I just went, okay, OP1 is not for me. However, there were a couple of YouTubers whose opinions I really do respect. Pop their faces up on the screen now. These two YouTubers really did kind of keep my eyes on the OP1 and keep my mind open to the OP1, because it was their genuine enthusiasm for this product that really shone through on all the videos they did about it. And so I thought to myself, well, yeah, well, maybe there is potential with this thing. Maybe there is, but I just can't justify the price. However, having said all that, Teenage Engineering finally did a really cool thing. They announced a successor to the OP1 called the OP1 Field. Suddenly there were used OP1s on the market and the price started to slide, and it has slid ever since. Now you can pick up an original OP1 for a bargain price if you look on eBay and Reverb and places like that. I waited very, very patiently for the price of used OP1s to come down to a level that I personally thought was worth the money. And that's when I took the plunge, and that was about 2.5 years ago. So finally, I could justify the cost. I had one in my hands. I ignored these silly little pieces of plastic, and I started to use it when I was away from my studio. And that's the right time for me to start using it. So, my love affair with the OP1 had begun. I had officially attained the level of a dentist. Fantastic. I mean, it was a kind of slow burn love affair for a while as I got into it, but I found that actually I really was relying on it and using it. But then something rather terrible happened. My OP1 had an accident. Well, I had an accident with my OP1. I spilt a drink all over it. It was a can of Coke or something like that. I can't remember what it was, a fizzy drink. Spilt it all over it. Total panic. Switched it off. Dried it off. Dared not switch it on until it was completely dried out inside and out. Switched it on and it worked, and it's all fantastic. However, there's a kind of weirdness going on with the buttons. Sometimes they just don't work. Sometimes you press them, let go of them, and they just think they're still being pressed. And sometimes they press themselves, which is really quite annoying. I've done loads of different things to sort it out. It seems to be that sticky keys on OP1s, certainly the original OP1s, is a little bit of a problem. So there's plenty of information about how to go about resolving it. And I've done an awful lot of work on this thing to solve it, but I got to the point where it was unreliable and I was reliant upon the OP1. So I had a decision to make. Do I buy myself another one, another used one, nice and cheaply, or do I bite the bullet and get an OP1 field? Now, I did my research. I did a lot of research. There was a lot of hype about the OP1 field when it came out, about the 100 improvements that there are over the original, and it just felt all a bit like marketing hype until I decided to take the plunge and buy an OP1, which I have done, and I have not looked back since. And so I will now tell you what I really think is so amazing about the OP1 field and why it is really something that I will never ever be selling. Okay, so why do I think that the OP1 field is so fantastic and such an improvement over the original OP1? For me personally, this is my opinions on it. I mean, first of all, and this is in no particular order, but first of all, just the appearance of it. The appearance of it is a bit more grown up. It's a less childlike. We don't have the Lego-like, cog-like knobs. They've even toned down the colours. We've got a two-tone theme going on here, a better on-off button. It just looks a little bit more professional. It clearly looks like an OP1, but it does look a little bit more professional. I think that does help. But obviously it's about the sound, and let's talk about the sound and the sound engines. First of all, we've got stereo, fully embraced stereo now in the sound generators inside this instrument, and it just gives an extra body to the sound, a fullness to the sound. It just sounds a lot better than an OP1, just to my ears. Stereo implementation is fantastic, but they've done some things that really, I think, should have been in the original OP1 from the very beginning. We have got a simple virtual analog sound generator, synth engine inside here now. No silly graphics, no silly quirkiness going on. We have got a range of waveforms over on the left hand side here, continuously variable waveforms. You can morph between them. It's a stereo sound generator. You've got control over detune and width of the sound. It's got a filter built into it. It's a low-pass resonant filter. It sounds absolutely wonderful. It's just such a simple, straightforward but usable sound engine, synth engine inside here. It really is something that I wanted to be inside the original OP1, but it wasn't there. And then talking about sound engines, let's talk about the effects. What they have done is added a really, really wonderful effect. It's a reverb effect. We had the quirky kind of spring reverb before in the OP1. Now we have a real grown-up, professional, beautiful sounding reverb. It's so lovely. I use it on absolutely everything. I use it way too much. I add too much reverb to everything, but I love it. It really does bring out my creativity. And then when we get past sound engines and talk about recording, well, when we talk about recording, we have more memory inside the OP1 field, and it really makes a massive difference. First of all, we've got a number of different recorder simulations, not just the tape that we had in the original OP1. We have got a studio 4-track style simulation tape recorder. We've got a vintage 4-track recorder simulation. Obviously that's going to sort of like add different sort of nuances to the sound that the studio one doesn't have. We've even got a Porter Studio 4-track cassette tape recorder simulation in here, and the one that I'm using all the time, because I'm not really into those tape simulations to be honest with you, is a mini disc simulation, a digital recording simulation inside here. But the really cool thing about the OP1 field is that rather than just dealing with one long piece of tape and having to put your ideas across that tape, maybe at different tempos, and having to remember what you've done and where you've done it on that tape, you can take your recordings, your multi-track recordings, and save them as a file inside the OP1, and that's what we have down here. We have a list of files. Now obviously there's limited amount of memory, so there's only so many of these that we can actually save, but it's fantastic to be able to just take an idea that you've got in your multi-track recorder of choice, save it and name it, give it a name, you know what it is, and then later on you can hook this up to your computer and you know exactly what you're looking for, what projects you've got going on, and what audio files you've got going on. It really, really, really is fantastic to be able to have this capability. So the way I end up using the OP1 field is possibly different to how other people use it. I'm not trying to build complete songs on this unit at all. I mean, maybe if I was away from home for long enough, I might be tempted to try that, but I'm not tempted to try it. What I end up doing is I end up using those 4 multi-tracks to build backing songs, basically backing tracks. I get some sequences going, some chords going, some drum rhythms going, something going that I think I can then build on. And then while I'm kind of recording to the little virtual vinyl sort of mastering capability that the OP1 field has, while I'm doing that, I'm playing over the top of my backing track in real time, creating melodies, looking for leads, looking for ways to take that backing track and move it a bit further forward. And that's really as far as I get with it. I then I'm quite eager then to bring it into the studio to develop it in my DAW, because that's the most comfortable place for me to be. And so that then kind of like leads me on to, you know, the first drawbacks of using the OP1 for me, the way I'm using it. First of all, you know, as you're creating those backing tracks and even the sort of like the melodies that I play over the top, I'm baking into those sounds. I'm baking into those sounds effects that sort of like inspire me at the time, but they're baked in. And obviously, if I want to take this into my DAW, then maybe those audio files are not usable. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But that's a problem for me. And secondly, if I actually want to sort of like then take it further forward by playing instruments in my studio instead of relying on the audio from the OP1 field, then I need to figure out what notes I played when I first recorded that audio. And it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, when I was a young teenager for the first time getting into music and getting into playing a keyboard. I used to listen to Tony Banks, his amazing solos that he used to play. I used to listen to Seconds Out. I used to play it on my headphones and listen to it, and then stop the record and then try and replicate what I was hearing on my little organ that I had, and then try and sort of like play over the top of it. That's how I learnt to play, was by ear. And I'm having to do the same thing with the OP1 field. When I bring it back into my studio and I want to figure out what it was, what is that melody I played? What are the notes? What key is it in? I have to try and sort of like just play along to it and figure out what on earth I did. That's a bit of a shame. I think that's really a bit of a shame, but that's the way it works. This is the way it works. It is not a MIDI sequencer, and I really do. You know, when I'm using the OP1 field, as much as it inspires me, and it does really inspire me, I do so wish it had sequencing capability inside it. So the OP1 has a number of sequencers on board, arpeggiators and that kind of thing. Little tools that can be used to generate notes for you either predictably or unpredictably, and they are really cool. But at the end of the day, you trigger those yourself, and the OP1 ultimately is just a digital audio recorder. It's a 4-track audio recorder, but it's just an audio recorder. It's just like literally having a microphone and playing into a microphone. And that for me has been a struggle. And I'll tell you why it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle because for the last 25 years I have been writing and recording music using a DAW in my own home studio. That's 25 years of quantization, basically. I have become reliant on quantization when I play. I don't play live at all, and I don't play in a band either. So there's no need for me to keep in time. And so when I'm playing into a DAW, I play all over the place. My timing is awful, but it doesn't matter because of the power of quantization that a DAW or any other decent sequencer allows you to perform. So I've become reliant on quantization, and I can't play in time for the life of me. And the OP1 requires that you play in time, because at the end of the day you're just recording the audio. You record your audio of your first take, and then you switch to track number 2, and then you record alongside your first take. Everything has got to be in time. It was a real struggle for me at the beginning. It made my use of the OP1 quite limited at the beginning, quite frustrating, and it still is a challenge for me, even though over the last 2.5 years my technique has certainly improved thanks to using an OP1. Timing is still an issue for me, and it's one of the main reasons that I think to myself over and over again, if only this thing was a sequencer and not just an audio recorder, because if it was a sequencer as well, then I wouldn't have this problem. I'd be able to sequence everything and then record afterwards. I have to say at this point that the OP1 Field, despite the fact that it's an audio recorder, despite the fact that I am crap when it comes to keeping time, it really is something that has unleashed my creativity. It really has. I actually look forward to going away somewhere, being stuck at an airport or stuck in a hotel room and having my OP1 Field with me. It really is not just enjoyable, but it's very, very productive. And obviously I then need to take my ideas and whatever I've got captured on here, bring them back to my studio and incorporate them in my studio. That is obviously a separate step to all of this, but it's just a fantastic instrument to be able to take away. It is so small, it's so light, and if I need a little MIDI controller keyboard because I've got my laptop with me, then I use this as a MIDI controller keyboard for my laptop. The keys are very, very usable. Okay, so it's time to wrap up this video, I think. Any conclusions? I think I've pretty much said everything I need to in the video. This is indispensable to me, it really is. I don't use it here in my studio, I use it when I'm away, and I look forward to being away so that I can use it. It is indispensable. To me, very, very personally, it's been worth every single penny. If I have any regrets, it's the fact that I didn't get an OP1 sooner. Actually, that's my only regret, or at least tried one sooner. I should have tried one sooner. I mean, you know, the sort of the downsides that I've alluded to in this video about the fact that this is not a sequencer, it is an audio recorder. Clearly there is therefore another product that I should be looking at, which is the OPXY, which is everything that this thing can kind of do in terms of sound generation and effects and envelopes and everything else you'd want to manipulate your sounds with a lovely little keyboard, but it's a sequencer, a multi-track sequencer, rather than being an audio recorder. So yes, the OPXY, I've got a very close eye on it. I'm looking at it very, very closely and thinking about it a lot. I think there's a little bit that needs to be done to it. There are a few bugs I've read about. There's things that could be changed, there's things that could be improved, and there's a lot more that Teenage Engineering could potentially add to it. I think it's got huge potential. And I really do hope that it's a great success for them. I'm keeping a very close eye on it, and I'd love to be able to one day in the future do another video where I'm holding up an XY instead of, or as well as, an OP1 field and telling you how much I think it's amazing. But until then, as always, thank you very, very much for watching.
One time long ago, so long ago, life was so serene. You made it so. We hoped you'd stay with us. It would be so. We thought you'd stay always. Where did you go? Wake up one morning, everything's changed. Lost souls, no reason, minds seem deranged. We thought you'd stay with us, you'd never leave. We thought you'd stay away.